in the quiet hours when dawn barely opens its pale fingers across the sky, I find myself thinking of you in a way that makes the world seem softer, as if every breath I draw is shaped by the memory of your voice, lingering like a gentle promise against the edges of my thoughts. I imagine walking through hallways shadowed by my duties, feeling the echo of your presence following me with a warmth that never fades, as though the walls themselves carry whispers of what we have not yet dared to say aloud. Your words become the mortar between the fragile pieces of my own hope, forming spaces where I can rest from the weight of names and expectations. And in those spaces I feel the simple truth of wanting you, not as a distant solace, but as someone whose steps I would recognize even in the dark. As I move through each day, the rhythm of your unseen devotion gathers around me, reminding me that even in silence, there's a home being built from every letter, every breath, every longing that refuses to disappear. There are moments when I stand before windows overlooking the landscape of a life already shaped for me, and yet I sense your presence stretching across the distance like a familiar melody, patient and unwavering. I feel as though your words rise beneath my feet, turning cold marble corridors into something warmer, something that belongs not to tradition, but to the quiet connection that forms between two hearts, learning to trust. When I read your messages in my mind, I let them settle in the unseen corners of my day, where no crown, no duty, no expectation can reach. Your tenderness becomes a secret passage through which my spirit finds its way back to the version of myself untouched by formality. I imagine you standing beside me during long ceremonies, your invisible support, a thread of courage woven into the fabric of my resolve. Each time I breathe, I feel your affection, like a quiet breeze slipping beneath the constraints of my world, reminding me that love does not need grand proclamations. It grows through the spaces between words, becoming a foundation stronger than stone. When night finally wraps the palace in shadow, I retreat to the still corners where I can let your memory unfold without restraint. Like a letter I reread endlessly, tracing its meanings with tender curiosity. Your presence lingers in the cadence of my thoughts, soothing the fatigue that comes from constantly being observed, judged, expected to embody ideals I sometimes struggle to understand. Yet even then, your imagined hand in mine brings comfort, shaping a sanctuary where I am allowed to simply feel, to simply want. I let your voice drift through my memory like a soft hymn, each syllable a promise of understanding that steadies my heartbeat. In those hours, the world beyond my window fades, replaced by the quiet warmth of what you have unknowingly built within me. The home, formed from your word, stands untouched by time, its walls crafted from the sincerity you never withhold. Its light drawn from the simple truth that someone somewhere sees me, not as a symbol, but as a woman capable of loving deeply. And in that imagined closeness, I find both solace and awakening. Sometimes I imagine the way you might look at me if the titles between us dissolved, leaving only two souls meeting with unshielded honesty. I wonder if you would see the hesitations I carry, woven through the threads of duty and devotion, or if your gaze would quiet them the way your words already do. You speak into the spaces where my own voice falters, building corridors of hope through which I can walk without fear. It feels as though every sentence you shape becomes a stone laid gently in the architecture of a love that grows stronger with every passing day. Even when I stand surrounded by ornate walls and ceremonial grandeur, I sense your presence as something far more meaningful, a warmth that finds its way through the heavy fabric of tradition. And in those moments I realize that the true kingdom I long to inhabit is the one we create in silence, where affection is not a whisper stolen in secrecy, but a truth quietly thriving in the breath between heartbeats. There are days when I move through my responsibilities with steady grace, yet within me your memory stirs like a soft flame refusing to dim. I feel it in the rhythm of my steps, in the subtle lift of my voice, in the warmth that gathers in my chest when I imagine your smile brushing gently against the edges of my thoughts. Your words shape themselves into rooms where I can quietly rest, where the heaviness of expectation softens into something more bearable. Each message I recall becomes a window, opening toward a life defined not by duty alone, but by the quiet certainty that love can bloom even in the most constrained of gardens. You give me the courage to imagine futures that stretch beyond the borders of tradition, futures in which we walk side by side with a tenderness we no longer have to hide. And though distance separates us, I feel you nonetheless. Your presence woven into the unseen tapestry of my private dreams, reminding me that the heart finds its own paths, even in places where freedom seems limited. I often picture the moments we have not yet lived, letting them unfold like scenes lit softly by dawn. I imagine you standing beside me, beneath quiet skies, your words forming a gentle shelter where my anxieties dissolve. In the world outside, expectations swirl like winds I cannot control. But within the home your voice builds, I find stillness, a quiet haven where my thoughts can breathe. You do not realize how profoundly you've shaped the landscape of my inner world, carving out gentle spaces where tenderness is not only allowed but welcomed. Each phrase you offer becomes a beam, holding the structure steady, each silent devotion a doorway into a future shaped by mutual trust. And though our realities may seem distant, your presence threads itself through my days with the kind of certainty that time cannot sever. I hold on to that certainty like a secret language we share, one built from whispers and longing, from everything said and unsaid, yet fully understood. In the quiet hours of evening, when the palace corridors fall silent and only the faint glow of lanterns remains, I walk slowly, letting your memory accompany me like an unseen companion. Each step seems lighter when I imagine your affection drifting beside me, forming a rhythm that softens the lonely parts of my duties. You exist in the gentle spaces between my breaths, in the stillness where my thoughts dare to unravel and speak truths they cannot voice aloud. Your words gather themselves into rooms within me, warm and softly lit, where I can rest from the weight of being watched. I think often about how love grows differently for those who must carry expectations, how it threads itself quietly through the spaces no one else sees. Yet your presence gives me courage to let it flourish, to believe that even in a world shaped by tradition, a heart can choose its own direction. In those silent moments, the home built from your words becomes my refuge, standing stronger than the palace around me. Your devotion reaches me in ways you may never fully understand, filtering through the barriers that separate our lives like sunlight slipping through narrow windows. Even when we are far apart, your presence gathers around me with gentle insistence, warming the spaces that duty has left cold. I find myself turning inward toward the memory of your voice, letting it echo softly until my heartbeat aligns with its rhythm. Your affection is never demanding. It simply exists, steady and patient, offering a haven where I can be myself without masks or titles. In those imagined moments together, I feel the truth of what we are building, something quiet yet enduring, a love shaped not by grand gestures, but by steady devotion that refuses to waver.